What is up guys, Solheim here, back with another Classic WoW Season of Mastery video. So we have some huge news for Classic WoW regarding both raiding. We have more difficult raiding coming up, and there's going to be new raid testing until Thursday, so in 2 days. We also have some anti-botting mechanics coming in for Classic WoW, or Season of Mastery. And we have even more news regarding the hardcore scene, including actually hardcore achievements, giving you achievements in the game for the things you accomplish. Season of Mastery is slowly turning into a version of Classic Plus that I was always interested in. We are getting nerfing to mage boosting, meaning there won't be any mage boosting this time around, or most likely there won't be. There will be more difficult raids. They are now going to rework almost every single boss fight and boss encounter in both Molten Core and Onyxia and upcoming raids as well. We have anti-bot mechanics coming for Classic WoW, and this is pretty much everything I could have asked for, except for some actual public announcement regarding botting, and also having active GMs. You get those 2 things right, and I have every change I want for Classic Plus. And we are slowly getting a version of Classic Plus that I was always interested in with Season of Mastery. So with that being said, we're going to cover all of these news today, and let's start with raiding. So first, thank you to everyone who hopped onto the Season of Mastery beta last week and helped us to test our first adjustments to Molten Core and Onyxia. Going into Season of Mastery, our philosophy was to take a light touch when it came to changes to raids and boss mechanics, raid bosses and mechanics, and focus instead on restoring versions of raid bosses that existed in the game at one point or another during the course of the original World of Warcraft. As we were peeling back the layers of data from early versions of the game, it became obvious quickly that the list of actual changes to most content in Molten Core and Onyxia was extremely short. Onyxia had a conflagrate / disorient effect on her fireball attack during the air phase, Golmag had an earthquake ability, and Ragnaros did a fire splash more frequently, with a weekly timer limit to the number of attempts a group could make. Some of these mechanics are more impactful than others, but overall we suspected that the total impact of these changes would likely not be meaningfully felt by players in 2021 who have an enormous amount of experience in these raids. Regardless, we were determined to start small and see how it felt first. So for that first round of beta raid testing, we went with a blanket 100% health buff and that handful of restored mechanics. As we watched beta testers in-game and listened to the reactions to our changes and restorations, it confirmed what we already thought going into this test. Merely raising mob health and restoring a few removed mechanics was not hitting the mark we wanted for a season focused on faster progression and more challenging content. This is something I can confirm as well. We barely felt any new mechanics in our raid testing on the beta test, and both for Molten Core and Onyxia there wasn't really any new problems, except for more health on the bosses. So as a result, with the upcoming beta build, we are making some significant adjustments to almost every single encounter in Molten Core and Onyxia's lair. To be clear, we don't intend these or any future changes to make Season of Mastery raid encounters to increase the difficulty of the content to a point where experienced, prepared raid groups will have to wipe for days or weeks to progress on it, so it won't turn into retail raiding 2.0. We also don't intend to change the fights so much that they become completely unrecognizable or fundamentally different from their classic versions. Our intent is to provide something subtle and fresh to go along with the Season of Mastery that feels very much in keeping with the spirit of the original encounters. We will let you know when we are ready to update the Season of Mastery beta, and we are going to open raid testing again on Thursday at 2 PM PDT, and we would love it if you could join us to check out what we have been working on. Next up, we have 5 achievements coming to the game as well, both regarding hardcore, so pretty much we have 5 achievements, one being called Survivor. We have Survivor of the Damned, Survivor of the Firelord, Survivor of the Old God, and Survivor of the Shadow Flame. All of these achievements, or well, Survivor and Survivor of the Firelord has already been connected to not dying and also killing Ragnaros, so Survivor could be the achievement for reaching level 60 without dying, Survivor of the Firelord could be the achievement for defeating Ragnaros without dying, Survivor of the Old God could be the one for killing Cthulhu without dying, Shadow Flame being Blackwing Lair, and Damned being Kill Jaden, or Kel'Thuzad, there we go. so clearing Naxxramas. So this is all achievements for killing the last raid boss of specific raids in Classic WoW, Season of Mastery, without dying. So you have to not die from level 1 all the way until killing those bosses. Personally, I think this is a great quality of life improvement. It gives the hardcore community a lot to aim for. We now have to clear every single raid without dying, but the one thing I want to point out is that what if I, a solo player, go for Survivor, so I play hardcore to level 60 without dying, and then I buy a boost for Onyxia, or let's just say I buy a boost for pretty much anything. I can buy a Naxxramas boost in phase 6, and I can buy a boost from a full guild of best in slot geared people, and I can buy a boost for Kel'Thuzad. Will that still give me the achievement, or do you only get the achievement when everyone in the group clearing the raid is also a hardcore player? That is what I'm kind of interested in, because if you can buy the boost, then that could be a huge thing in Season of Mastery, and I don't want to see that one personally, so I kind of want everyone in the group to need to have the hardcore mode enabled to get these achievements. Next up, we have 2 new changes to curtail botting and help prevent botting in Classic WoW Season of Mastery. And before we go through those, I want to shout out my gold making guide that I very recently published. This is a huge gold making guide for Season of Mastery. It's 86 pages long so far, containing 38 different gold farms and 36 different investments that you can invest in to make profit during Classic WoW. So if you want to make even more gold in Classic WoW Season of Mastery, make sure you check that guide out, and right now you can get 50% off using the code Solheim. That being said though, we have 2 new uncategorized spells that I want to look at. One of them is being called Blessing of Theradras. So Theradras is a boss in Moradin, the last boss in Moradin, that pretty much hunters, warlocks, and mages can solo. Maybe even Shadow Priests and Boomkins as well. Pretty much everyone who's ranged and have some sort of damage over time ability or kiting strategy can solo this boss. And this boss is very useful for farming gold in phase 1, where you can sell boss loot. That's not all though. Bots are doing this farm on repeat whenever they can, because it can drop a lot of venerable gold. There's an item so that sells for almost 5 gold every time you get it, the two-handed weapon. So bots have been doing this farm in Classic WoW, and I think one of these changes is to help prevent botting, because the boss itself will still be doable, at least I think it will based on theory crafting, but basically the boss itself will become immune to snare and root effects, and also immune to snare effects once again, and also movement speed increased by 50%. This is pretty much an enrage timer, and it enrages 3 times. The first time it's immune to snare and root, the next time it's only immune to snare, and the time after that it has its movement speed increased by 50%. So based on that, it will still be soloable and farmable from real players, as long as you have the damage to avoid phase 3. The next uncategorized spell that I want to look at is called Thief. Given the recent string of thievery, enemies around you have stashed most of their belongings elsewhere. So doing some real speculation on this one could really be about pickpocketing, and it could be about pickpocketing pretty much anywhere, but especially for Blackrock Depths, where rogues were definitely pickpocketing all the time, especially rogue bots were pickpocketing for raw gold. It wasn't the best farm, but for bots this was really consistent, gave them raw gold as well from pickpocketing, and this could be to help prevent that one from happening again. So whenever you pickpocket maybe 10-20 mobs in a row, everyone in that dungeon gets this debuff for a specific time, making you unable to pickpocket them. All of these changes combined, pretty much giving us the Thief ability, also nerfing Princess Theradras by giving her a enrage timer, and also helping us prevent mage boosting, will definitely help prevent botting this time around. But that being said, we still need some active GMs and active communication from Blizzard regarding botting, but this is definitely a great step 1, and I'm really happy to see this one happen, because now we will have some things in place to prevent botting in the game itself, even without game masters actively handling the game. And that is pretty much it, guys. That is a news recap of the news we have so far, and what's happening in the game right now as of Season of Mastery's open beta, so you can go on the beta yourself and test this out right now. That is pretty much it though. Hope you liked the video. If you did, leave a like down below, subscribe for more Season of Mastery content. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.